Hi, this is Koksal Mus from Worcester Polytechnic Institute. So I am going to talk about how we can use LLM models in education. I am trying to start. I will start with working. So should I change it from the computer?
It doesn't matter. You can use it there.
I believe it's not working.
Oh, then use it here.
Okay. Oops. Yep. So I'm going to start with a motivation. What are the learning challenges or learning? What are the learning differences between generations? And I'm going to make the connection between the improvement of the technology and then the improvement of the education. And then I'm going to make the connection of how we are going to evolve these teaching methodologies into the new generation. Okay, and then I'll talk about DEI because with this new system that I'm going to offer, we can make use of this system to improve DEI efforts in higher education. And also, I'm going to talk about different instruction, different learning strategies, different learning methods, and I'm going to sum them up, and I'm going to offer in this new methodology using AI. So I'm going to start with now it started working. I'm going to start with the most important technological improvements. For example, in 1980s, PCs become available for all the users. Before this time, there were not very many personal computers. So actually, this changed the way of education, especially in higher education, a lot. And in 95 or 20s, in addition to these PCs, internet become available. So which means actually we start the resources start become available on computer level. And then afterwards in 2010, and actually it started in 2010, but now actually especially in the last 3-4 years with the LLMs, improvements in LLMs and the computations of LLMs, actually we start using LLMs in education more than the previous generations, especially even though it started in 2010, after 2020, we start using more LLM applications in education. So since we put the technological improvements here, I'm going to talk about the generations. So Gen X, those are the people born in between 65 and 80s. So these Gen X went to the college around this time. So which means when they went to college, there were personal computers already. So which means they were using computers, but there was no internet connection back then. Okay, so at least high-speed internet connection. So therefore, even though they have the computers, they use it for presentations, they use it for PowerPoints, but they could not use it for content creation. But after, for millennials, they had the internet, so that actually there were lots of opportunities for them, so that they use laptops more interactively in their educations. And also, these personal computers convert the education from instructor-based setup to active learning setup, which means actually students become more active in teaching, actually in learning. And then with Gen Z, there were high-speed internet, so that actually they start using technology much more efficiently, especially in education. And then there were more applications for education, learning management systems, for example, Canva, for example, they're all using it, right, in the education. But this new coming generation, Gen Alpha, they born after 2010 or 13, which means they born after there are LLMs or machine learning algorithms or tools. So which means when they went to college, actually they start coming to colleges, right? These days, these years. So they are going to use AIs much more often than what we used to use. Okay, so okay. So these are some highlights of generations, and I color coded. So these red ones are like more like lecture-based learning, which means instructor-based learning. These millennials, they are more like problem-based learning or project-based learning. And here for Gen Z, they continue to use problem-based learning, but in a different setup. But with Gen Alpha, if we continue to use problem-based learnings, I believe it's not going to be sufficient for them because they have different needs. Here, for example, they are more flexible with the technology, and with these AI tools, they can easily create projects. And actually, for class assignments, they can easily fulfill them without doing anything because there are lots of AI tools available for them. Yeah, so these are the important highlights of learning styles. For example, for Gen X, memorizing information was important. But when we switch to millennials, knowledge became more important than just knowing the information, because back then, to reach information, you had to go to libraries. But for millennials, it is just a click away because they had internet, right? So by the way, it looks here, but actually when they went to college, they were here, which means internet was available for millennials. And for Gen Z, creativity and innovation is more important for them, right? Because this is the new era, and then we can easily access information and we can easily access knowledge of other people by videos or by video content, etc. So that's much easier. So that's why actually we switch from instructor-based learning to project-based learning, and then we switch to student-centered learning. And then for Gen Alpha, we need to switch from student-centered learning to deep learning. Deep learning, the difference between deep learning and student-centered classroom is, actually, it is more or less the same thing, but the main importance here is, it's a little bit hard to not to see the next slides here in front of me. Sorry for that. Okay, so for Gen Alpha, what is important is creativity. So here for higher education, what we need to consider is how we can amplify the creativity of these students and how we can use AI tools for these students, how we can make it possible for them to learn through AIs instead of putting extra policies in classroom setting that we can forbid them using these AI tools. Instead, we should switch the classroom setting, and then we should make these AI tools to more beneficial for them to amplify their creativities. Okay? And then, so here, DEI is another concern for Gen Alpha and Gen Z. So just some key goals here, for example, reducing for underrepresented groups, how we can reduce achievement gaps, or how we can foster inclusive leadership, or how we can promote diverse learning in class, or how we can create a pipeline of underrepresented groups in higher education. These are the main goals of DEI in higher education, but these are not the only ones. Okay, but these are the ones that I'm going to point out. Okay, and another important group of students or learners in higher education is first-generation college students, because this is also related to this pipelining, because students are coming to higher education or college, but they cannot graduate. So actually there are some statistics, 50% of first college students are not graduating, they are dropping the college. So how we can use AI to help these students as a support mechanism to let them finish or let them support their education. So there are some DEI initiatives in higher education. So for example, first generation student programs. So this is one important point that actually this is important to keep them in the system, that there is going to be a pipeline. And how we can create extra time for them, especially in summer terms, that we can keep them up to their peers. Okay? And then it takes us to the self-efficacy, because if they believe in themselves, then they will stay in the system. Okay? And these are these are 10 DEI related issues that I'm going to highlight, and these are the ones that I'm going to focus on to solve. These are mostly in-class efforts, because there are also others that actually we cannot solve by using AI, because it requires some funding or some extra workforce. For example, social and professional networks. We cannot generate this. We cannot solve this DEI problem by using LLMs. So that's why there are some extra DEI problems, but I'm not going to touch them in this work. Okay. So, and then let me briefly explain you instructor-centered classroom. So I'm not going to spend my time here, but I want to include this slide here just to point out that actually that was a setup. Okay, and then we switch from this setup to project-based learning. So in project-based learning, students is in the center of learning, which means actually they are taking their own responsibilities. But with the current project-based learning systems, what we are doing is there is one instructor, it defines all the roles, all the assignments, etc. And then students are trying to fulfill these assignments. Okay. So, but it is better than instructor-centered classroom. Why? Because instead of passive learning, now we have active learning. So instead of, so here in instructor-centered classroom, creativity and critical thinking are not encouraged, but here in this project-based learning, this is encouraged. And additionally, now we have AI tools. So if you are teaching in instructor-centered classroom, then actually AI is a threat for this learning model. Why? Because students can easily cheat, right? Because what is important is to bring the information in and then use some knowledge. So actually AI is going to provide them all. So therefore, project-based learning fits into AI era much better than instructor-based learning, but actually it needs some improvement. So first, or before talking about what we are going to change, let me explain you what are the available resources for us. For example, this is from a slide of a university. Actually, they specifically teach their students how they can use AI tools. They even list the tools here that they can use. And they also teach them how they can use AI tools more efficiently. But if you are teaching in instructor-based setting, then actually you are teaching them how to cheat, right? Which means actually now changing your classroom setting is mandatory, okay? And this is another one from my university that actually one professor analyzed all the AI tools and divide them into categories that how you can make most use of them, okay? So as you see, actually this is very common. Every university or most of the universities has their own way of approaching this LLM. Okay. So, okay, we are going to use LLMs, but it has its own problems, such as, for example, hallucination, or bias, or mediocre quality of the output, or the output is not current because we are training the model, we are using a big data or big database to train this model, but it's not staying current. So how are we going to update this system? Because here, these systems are resource hungry, which means actually we always need to update this system, and then we should train this model, but it's very costly, so it's not easy to maintain as well. So therefore, this is my suggestion here. Instead of project-based learning, let's switch to deep approach. Deep approach is nothing but project-based learning, but with a little twist. The twist here is instead of defining the problems for the students and then trying to identify what is important for them, so we will we will switch the learning setup that students are going to choose their own projects, and then they are going to research and learn what is needed for them. And then they are going to, instead of learning the material in class, they are going to use it before the class, and they will have in-class discussions. And afterwards, they are going to iterate this process, and then they are going to iterate their projects. So that actually learner is going to define their own approach to their own learning. Okay? So actually, I was checking what is out there in education for LLMs, and then when I was reading it, I realized that actually there are small bit of what we are doing in everybody's mind. For example, here, some suggest that actually we can use AI for DEI, but they didn't. So they suggest that it can be beneficial for DEI, but there is no work that they explain this, how we can make use of LLMs for DEI, for example. So these are like small bits of what we are doing. So when you read through the literature, you can see them. Okay? Actually, these are all from the same document. You see, even there, it's possible to find different pieces from different people. So anyways, I talk about the problems of LLM, and here I am suggesting my own solution. Actually, this is not something that I did, but this is something that we can use. So it is called RAG system, Retrieval Augmented Generation. What it does is, we have our LLM model here. Okay, it doesn't matter what it is. It can be ChatGPT, Llama, or whatever, okay? You can use anything. And so we use a retrieval model. What it does is, it takes some data that user defines, which means as an instructor, we are going to use some data to support this LLM model, and then it's going to train this data in a way that it can make use of these LLM models in a better way. And it also defines and updates the information that LLM is going to respond. Okay, what it means is, if you include your course material here, then LLM is going to take your course material first, and then it's going to bring refined solutions to your prompt. Okay, which means you will get refined solutions. And then actually, in this way, you can eliminate hallucination problem. This is the first thing. The second thing is the LLM model is not current. So if you feed your current data here, then your LLM model is going to use your current data, and then it's going to bring those type of answers to the user. So which means actually we can solve all these problems by using RAG system to support our LLM model. Okay, so what is going to help? So suppose we have one virtual assistant. It uses this RAG enhanced LLM model. So by the way, this RAG is not a training model. So it is not an LLM model itself. It just brings refined answers from this LLM model. Okay, so which means, so therefore you can use an LLM model with it. And then you don't need to train all this big data here into your system. Okay, what you are doing is you are training your course material into this retrieval model, and then it will refine your responses. So actually this RAG system is used for chatbots, for companies, for specific support. So if you want to refine your results, then RAG system is a good answer for that. So we are using this system for our learning model, and then instead of, so this is the PBL model, and then these are the addition by deep approach with virtual TA support. So instead of instructor doing everything, so students are going to do everything, so that actually they can decide their own learning models, they can take their own time. And here TA is virtual, which means you can reach him, you can reach this TA whenever you like. If you used to work at night, then actually it is available there, it is online. And then, so the main difference between deep approach and PBL is students are creating their own projects. So in other words, they need to research and educate themselves in the field. It's another way to be a lifelong learner, right? So we are also encouraging them to be lifelong learners. And so these are the key features of this RAG enhanced virtual TA. So in the learner perspective, they have this TA available. And if they have some background, if they need some background, actually they can use this system to educate themselves. And if they need this LLM for critical thinking, then they can also use it. So, which means it is more engaging, and actually it answers most of the students' needs. And on the instructor level, instructor is going to create some time for for himself in class, because LLM is going to help the students in their knowledge and information. Okay, so that actually this instructor can spend more time with the students from underrepresented groups, or students with more impersonal needs. Okay, and for the course design, so this is our model. Our model has a logging mechanism here. Logging mechanism here, so that actually by using this logging mechanism, instructors can redesign their course based on the students' questions and the responses, which means this is like students asking a question and getting a response, asking another questions and getting another response. Actually, you can detect what they are looking for. If they are looking for creativity, if they are looking for information, if they are looking for knowledge, whatever they are looking for, actually, this is going to let us collect more information about students' needs, and then we can update the curriculum, not only for our course, also for the prerequisite course, and also for the courses from previous institutions. So by using this mechanism, actually we can answer all these DEI problems by just adding an extra LLM model into the system. Okay, and just one last thing, using these LLM models, which means implementing it into your classroom, is very easy, because you don't need to code anything. It is just drag and drop system. For example, there is Flowwise AI system that you need to pay for it. And if you tend to pay for the service, then actually it is just drag and drop. You are just deciding how students are going to send their prompts and what type of course material you are going to use, and that's it. That's very easy. And if you want to train your own model, by just investing $5,000 in a computer, you can train your own RAG system, and then it use online LLM models to answer the students' needs. Okay, so that's it.
All right, thank you very much. I'd like to invite